What's the deal, Merc fam? In today's video, we're going to be speaking on a brand new movie called The Jungle Cruise, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt. But before we get into that, I want to make sure that everybody likes, subscribes, and go ahead, tap that notification bell one time for your boy. I just want to make sure that everything I post you guys are aware of. I don't want to be dropping some fire-ass reviews, and you're over here like, why Merc ain't dropped none in a couple days? It's because you ain't subbed up. Before we get started on this brand new movie, I felt that it would be a great idea to give you guys a little bit of history on what the Jungle Cruise actually is, where it comes from, and why there's a movie of it. For the most part, what I know of the Jungle Cruise is the actual Disney ride. Now, over the past 60 years, this ride has been the center of a lot of controversy. See, the Disney Cruise has made its reputation based off of fake animal cruelty, and it led its way all the way up to racism. Over the many years, the different Jungle Cruises across different Disney worlds has caused a lot of troubles. There have also been numerous changes on this ride to keep the attention of all of its reoccurring guests. Everything that they took out, they replaced with something better. There used to be an animatronic hippo in which the skipper would shoot. There were many different animal scenes along this jungle ride, and you got to see places like Brazil, South America, and Japan. And then towards the end of the ride, there's supposed to be this cannibalistic African tribe that tries to kill the people that are on the boat. But over the many years, a lot of different tourists and people visiting the park have complained about this kind of racist thing at the end of the show. This cannibalistic African tribe tries to come across and kill the people on the boat, but of course it's a show similar to Jaws and other Disney rides where you're kept safe and led by the skipper on the boat. Now, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of this information because maybe it'll make more sense to you when you watch the movie, or if you've seen this movie, you can take the information that I've provided and connect the dots, and maybe it'll make a little bit more sense to you guys. With all that being said, let's jump into the water on this Jungle Cruise. This movie really revolves around Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character and a brother and sister botanist who are looking for a special leaf or petal from a magical tree in South America. It seems like they were trying to pitch this voyage to a certain college or this group of people who were investing in them, giving them the funds to go and find this petal. So essentially, Emily Blunt's character and the brother go down to South America, and they're trying to find someone who can take them to this little island where history has told there is this magical tree being guarded by a special tribe. We soon find Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson trying to fix this rinky-dink boat and ends up saying extremely cheesy jokes to keep these people on board at bay. The beginning scene with The Rock on this Jungle Cruise is probably the closest we're gonna get to the actual ride. It is during this time that he sets off a bunch of different traps, an animatronic hippopotamus, and a bunch of other oogie boogie things that jump out of the tree lines. When I saw this first scene play out in the beginning of the movie with The Rock steering these people on his boat, I began to realize where this movie was gonna take us. Once all of the characters are mainly introduced, they begin their journey to this island to find this rare petal. Now, this petal allegedly contains magical components that can bring someone back to life, heal the sick, and if looked upon scientifically, I'm sure that they can find a lot more medicinal purposes for it. It is at this time that I'm gonna give you guys my spoiler warning. If you have not watched The Jungle Cruise, I suggest you put a pause on this, go ahead, add it to your watch playlist, come back later, revisit this review, and you can hear what I had to say. I'm 100% sure you're gonna want to hear what I got. It is something that's gonna really make you laugh. And for those of you that have seen this, go ahead and strap up your seatbelt because we're gonna continue on down the river on this cruise. This movie reminded me of about 3 separate movies. Number 1, The Mummy. In those movies with Brendan Fraser, he assists a British brother and sister to Hamunaptra, the city of the dead. And pretty much it follows the same type of things. We got this guy leading these people to get something. I couldn't help but draw lines to connect these two different movies, man. I mean, they're both British, and we've got an extremely popular action star who's gonna lead them to find what they need. I don't know about you guys, but this shit sounds like The Mummy to me. Anyway, Emily Blunt's character has this arrowhead in which she had got her hands on in the beginning of the movie. This arrowhead acts like a key, and somehow it's supposed to allow them access to this tree. Now, the second movie that I think the Jungle Cruise was trying to mirror is Pirates of the Caribbean. Lo and behold, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson isn't just some skipper leading this boat. He was actually a part of the initial invasion of this South American territory where natives were living guarding this tree. What they were trying to explain to us in this movie is that the jungle is haunted, and it is haunted by the Spaniards who were trying to conquer the land. From what I could understand, Dwayne's character was a part of those conquistadors. Once they found out where the tree was, they demanded to see it, and once they were told no, they proceeded to slay everyone in the tribe. A curse curse was then set on the group so that they could never leave the island. So boom, this whole time we're thinking that The Rock is just this regular skipper taking them on this jungle cruise, but no, he is actually a part of these Spaniards. Somehow he was able to have a perfect English accent in this South American country, and he pretty much got away with living in this area because somehow he trapped those conquistadors. And because they were bound to the island for so long, they started to resemble the jungle, okay? There was a guy who had snakes coming out of him. There was like a bee guy. I tell you all this solely to explain that I really feel that this movie bit a big chunk of Pirates of the Caribbean. It really reminded me of those cursed pirates on the Black Pearl. It was at this part in the movie that I really began to dislike what I was seeing. Not only did this movie unknowingly knock off The Mummy and the Pirates of the Caribbean, but Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's jokes were absolutely terrible. I can definitely understand a good joke, but in this movie, there was this horrid ongoing joke about Emily Blunt and her wearing pants. I swear on everything I love, The Rock calls this girl Mrs. Pants about 50 times throughout this movie. It gets so bad that the conquistadors start calling her Mrs. Pantalones. Being that this movie was based on a ride, I think the directors and writers had free reign with what they wanted to do. This movie was absolutely over the top, too coincidentally written for our characters, and the storyline was extremely convoluted. There was a villain in this movie that I felt the movie could have did without completely. And that same villain that was unneeded was unrealistically driving a submarine in a very shallowish type of river. Not only did things not make sense, but the movie was just too long for me to want to figure shit out. At the end of the movie, Dwayne tries to sacrifice himself, but of course it's a Disney movie, so everything ends on a happy note. I watched this movie with my family, and I really had a good time at certain points listening to some of the jokes and banter between The Rock and whoever else he was pummeling. But that's really it. The story really lacked in a lot of different areas, and none of the acting from our characters were able to fill those voids. At the end of the day, I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 10, only because it was so boring. I could have thought of 5 different movies that Disney could have tried to make besides putting out this garbage. I love The Rock. He's one of my favorite wrestlers to actually do good in the big screen, but it's like he has this obsession with being in the jungle wearing extremely medium shirts. It's like Dwayne even gets a whiff of there being some sort of jungle reenacted movie, and he's all the way in. But what did you guys think of this review? Did you hate it? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you watch this movie and actually enjoy it? Let me know if you believe this rating should have been higher or lower. I've had a lot of different people coming at me for my Suicide Squad review, but to be honest, that movie was trash, but this movie was even worse. But you already know what it is, man. It's your boy Merc. It's been a pleasure, but I'm out.
When I take the wheel, it's going out of control. I ain't got a flex, but my money swole. I'm flying real life, nigga, not just pose. Hands down, I'm the man now. You better do your research before I air it out. I'm smoking on reefer and it's very loud.